Files, Fernando from SkyFi Audio. This is the Technics SL-1000R, a formidable turntable, the top of the line from Technics. I'm going to spend around 15-20 minutes going over the design, the features, how it compares to the 1200G, the GR2. I've got a motor to show you. I'm going to show you some upgrade options, some additional Tonearms, cartridge selection, etc. So it's going to be a fun video. The SL-1000 sits at the top of the food chain for Technics. It is a price no object turntable in the reference class. It is $20,000, which is insane to a lot of people. I get it. I'm going to hear a lot of comments about how crazy the price is, but the amount of engineering, materials, design that goes into it, if you're a serious audiophile and you want the absolute best in turntable design, this is pretty much right up there. It's not new to the Technics lineup. It's been around in some iteration of this for some time, but they finally got it packaged really well. The SP10, which is essentially this drive motor, has been available for quite a few years as a kit, sort of build your own turntable kind of thing. But now it's available as the SL-1000 in a complete package. Well, almost complete. It's missing a few things, but certainly enough to get a turntable running. $1,000 gets you a SP10 drive. It gets you a 10-inch Technics Tonearm, and it gets you this beautiful plinth to go with it. And I'll go over the materials they've used and the layers and all the complexity around it. It also comes with a external power supply motor controller, which sits right here, which I will go over the features as well. I'll show you the system first of all. This is their top-of-the-line integrated amplifier, also part of the reference series. And then the SACD player and a dedicated streamer. So we were looking for the icing on the cake, so we commissioned this Technics RS-1500 to be reskinned and restored to like new condition to match the whole thing. So these are generally an ugly battleship gray, SkyFi exclusive only, modernized Technics RS-1500. To buy the SP10 drive, that is essentially just this top piece sitting right here, which contains all the motor and the controller that you need to get it going. So this would be for someone that's looking to put together something custom. Let's say you supply your own plinth, or maybe build your own plinth and select your own Tonearm. SP10 is exactly for that, for the DIY crowd. But the SL-1000 as a model is if you want one ready to go. Let's talk about the Tonearm. The Tonearm, although it looks like a standard Technics Tonearm, it is far from that. This is specific for this turntable, and guess what? It cannot be purchased on its own. So I inquired about potentially adding a second Tonearm. I'm not able to source one, and I'll show you what we came up with as an alternative, because we do want to add a second Tonearm to this turntable. So it's a 10-inch magnesium wand S-shaped Tonearm in the style of all the SL-1200s that have been done for a very long time, but it certainly has a look and a feel that's different. It is a different form factor, especially the base of it. And it doesn't come with a head shell, which is, I thought I find it interesting that at this price level you got to source your own. If you're wondering what to use on it, the safest bet is the original SL-1200 Technics head shell, which is an OEM piece, works beautifully. It doesn't look as fancy as some of the other ones, but it's dead quiet and fits really nicely. Utilizes oxygen-free copper throughout the connections. It is a gimbal design, as all the other 1200s have been. And it also uses a 5-pin DIN connector, which is kind of nice. You can use just about any manufacturer's Tonearm cable. There's a beautiful set of Kimber cable TAC CU phono interconnects with WBT connectors. This is the lock-in type. Love this cable. We sell a ton of these with the SL-1200G. And it was a great fit for the 1000 as well. So quite a selection of additional Tonearm weights, and we're able to track anything from 0 to 4 grams, which is right around the limit. So in terms of head shells, you can do something between 15 grams all the way up to 31 grams. The effective length is 254. And then the pivot to spindle is 239 with a 15mm overhang, so pretty standard stuff. The turntable can fit up to 3 Tonearms, and I'll go over the positions. I'm going to post a picture of that so you can see, even though it's not that obvious at first sight, it is quite expandable. There are slots right here. There's a little removable aluminum piece here, and another one here in the back. So there are a possibility of 3 tone arms. They can't all be 12 inches or 10. There's a mix of it. Let's talk about the construction of the cabinet. So the drive unit itself, which can be purchased as the SP10, is comprised of 3 layers. It's got a 25 millimeter aluminum top plate, and then it has a aluminum die-cast subframe, and then a BMC, which is bulk molding composite compound below it. And then the plinth itself, with the lower piece, is a 2-layer affair, consisting of a 30 millimeter aluminum top plate and then BNC below it, which is stuff we've seen, you know, for many years in Techniques. And this gives it a really great inert feeling, as well as very, very heavy. This whole kit here weighs in at somewhere around 80 pounds or so. They're very similar to what's found in the 1200G, but obviously tuned specifically for the weight of this turntable. So it uses some sort of silicon, a microcell polymer, all this crazy stuff to achieve incredible vibration dampening. I did a video a while back, I'll link to it below, where I vibrated the table and measured with an accelerometer vibrations both at the table and at the platter with a 1200G, and it's incredible what its abilities to absorb sound is. And I'm sure Techniques has done a similar job with the 1000, accounting for its weight, right? As soon as you change the mass or the weight of the turntable, you've got to modify the feet. That's why I generally tell people, especially in the 1200G on this model, like, don't mess with the feet. Techniques went through a lot of trouble to get them just right, and anything you do aftermarket is just going to take away from it. Talk about the motor. The motor was based on the SL-1000R, which was a departure from all the other Techniques turntables, you know, like the MK5s, the 3s, the 2s. 1200G is really where Techniques stepped up the motor game. So when the 1000 came out, they essentially improved up on the 1200G motor. And I've got one over here to show you the difference. I actually have both a 1200G and an SL-1000 motor. So let's see if we can go over the differences. So to my right is the G, right? It's got the coil windings, which are right here, and then dual rotors. I don't know if you can see this, but if I spin this turntable, I've got a rotor top plate here, and then we've got another rotor underneath here, and they're both being acted upon by this electromagnet. So there's a fixed magnet on here, and there's an electromagnet right here, and dual rotors. So it's almost like, you know, dual discs. All right, and here you can see this is the actual bearing itself with a bunch of electronics, probably for measuring speed. So in total, we've got 2 rotors and 9 coil windings. If we spin this around, we'll count up to 9 here. This is the connector that essentially feeds all these coil windings. Now on the 1000R, they've gone absolutely bonkers. They've got twice as many windings. So we've got 18 coil windings. We've got the dual rotors, but we also have dual magnetic surfaces. I can see one down here and one above. So it's essentially double the amount of stuff in order to get even more linear operation and more strength. Highly unnecessary for a turntable, but the platter is rather heavy. It pushes almost 8 kilograms. So going up in both strength and capabilities was a smart move for a turntable at this level. Also, the bearing is an improved bearing. You can kind of see over here that it does look different. It looks like a machine top plate. So I suspect in order to accommodate for the extra weight, they've had to upgrade the bearing as well. In fact, I'm not sure if you can make it, but you see the coil winding on this side and then you see the opposing one. They're not lined up. They're actually off by about 60 degrees, and that gives you that sort of smooth rotation, or additionally smooth rotation, as the magnet structure is being pulled from much closer points together. This means we get one of the lowest one flutters measurable. It is 0.15% or 0.015%. I mean, that is at the limit of what we're able to measure in a laboratory environment. So this is really the top dog in the world of motors at this point. Let's talk about the motor controller. It's housed in this unit here, which is really a nice upgrade. We've seen this in many turntables over the decades, which is to essentially separate the power supply from the turntable. Why? Because all the noisy bits are in here. So this connects to the turntable with an umbilical cord and the switching power supply, which tends to be noisy, and the motor speed controller gets built into a separate box. And distance, there's really no substitute for distance, of having it far away from the sensitive bits, which is essentially the Tonearm cable and the cartridge. Those are the ones that are most susceptible to electromagnetic interferences, so there's no better isolator than distance, and that's what we get with this guy. In terms of controls, we've got a power button and the ability to select 33, 45, and 78 from either here or from the turntable itself up here. I'm not sure why 2 places, but it probably didn't take much to do so. We've got pitch adjustment. Here we can do it in RPM, or we could also do it by percentage. And then display, this is super cool. Right now, this is just our set speed, right? So we can go 33, 45, or 78. But if we hit the display, we actually can get to the percentages. So we can increase by percentage instead of by RPM. But if we get the display degree or RPM, this is actually measured speed. So if I reach up and sort of slow down the platter, which takes quite a bit of force, we actually see the measured resulting speed. So if I push really, really hard, I can get this to drop just below 30. Quite a torquey motor. I bet if I stood on this thing, it would probably spin me around. The display auto dims, so if you don't touch it for a while, it will dim a little bit, which is nice for watching in a dark environment, and then it will shut off completely. And this is an OLED display, so it'll have really nice shelf life. It's not like the older displays that eventually either fade or have screen burn. And then if you mess with any of the stuff on it, a reset button brings you back to 33.33. So pretty cool. On the back, all we've got is an umbilical connection and an IC power cord in case you want to use your own power cord. Some other technology built into this, well, they've got a switching power supply, but then they've got a really cool noise reduction circuitry. And I'll post a picture of exactly the block diagram of how it works, but there's actually active noise cancellation at the power supply level, which is pretty neat stuff. Lastly, let's talk about the Platter. The Platter does not have strobe indications like the SL-1000G. They've done away with that on 2 models at this point, the 1500 and the this one, the 1000. A lot of people have been asking for that. Hey, when are we going to lose the pitch controls on some of the middle of the line turntables? So this is the other option if this pitch controller really bugs you. You're going to have to spend the big bucks to get to this level. The Platter is similar to the G, but different. It is heavier at 7.9 kilograms. It uses an incredibly thick, I think this is about 10 millimeter brass platter top piece here. And then it's got a bunch of little weights in here that have been machined to perfection. And these are apparently made out of tungsten, and there's 12 of them. And then the 3 screws that hold the Platter to the motor drive assembly. And I think these 4 screws on the perimeter here actually hold the 2 pieces together. So 10 millimeters brass, and then below it you can kind of see about 6 millimeters or so, or 5 millimeters of this aluminum die cast. If I were to take this off and flip it over, you're going to see a rubber membrane, some sort of deadening rubber that essentially takes any ringing or vibration out of this Platter. So when I tap on it, it's like tapping on stone. It's insanely non-resonant. Cool chart on their website that shows the vibration resistance of this versus the original SP10 versus the 1200G. I'm going to post that graphic so you can see it. Now this thing is so heavy that it comes with these 2 lifting devices, almost like Allen wrenches that fit into these 2 screws so you can pull straight up. There's no way to really grab this thing. You can't get your fingernails under it or grab it from any particular point, so there are tools included. And there's tons of unpacking videos. I didn't want to make another boring unpacking video. It does ship in a pretty sizable wooden crate with a cardboard box inside of it. So if you purchase one of these, be prepared to need 2 people to unpack this 80-something pound beast and get it situated in place. It's come with an acrylic cover. This is a high quality acrylic cover. This is essentially 5 pieces that have been glued together rather than what we would have seen on the SL-1200, which is essentially a single molded piece. So super nice construction on this, what I'd like to see at this price level with really nice feet. And notice it's not a hinge cover. Hinge covers are a terrible idea. Lynn's been doing it forever. They act like sails. They pick up all the air vibrations and all the waves that travel through your listening room and transfer them down into the turntable, much like a sail. So if you got a hinge cover on your turntable and you want to do serious listening at a good volume, please be sure to remove it. That is a typical Technics affair. I'm going to guess it's the same mat that we find on the G and on the GR2, and it's a wonderful piece. Really soft rubber. It feels like high quality. I've experimented with mats and haven't really found much of a difference. I know people like to play with mats. Oh, speeds we talked about, 33, 45, and 78. Unlike the 1200, you don't have to hold any button combinations. They have dedicated buttons for them. And then the start-stop. It's just about as fast as a 1200G. I haven't timed it. 1200G gets up to speed in about 2 seconds, I suspect. Even with the added weight, since we do have more pulls in the motor, it's gonna get going and stop just about as fast. Talk about upgrades. For about 1,200 bucks, you can order an additional arm board, and there are several configurations for the arm board. Technics makes specific ones for specific brands. I'll go through them with you in a second. But they also make a universal one that you could drill yourself. So technically you could put just about any tonearm that you wanted onto this turntable, depending on the position. So optional boards include the EPA 100, which I'm going to show you for both the MK1 and the MK2. You could get one for an Orifon RS212, RS309, a Jelco SA250, 750L, and Ikeda IT345. So lots of options. We've gone a little bit of different route. I'm a huge fan of this one generation older Technics tonearm, which I ordered here from Asia. These are pretty tricky to find. This is a 10-inch EPA 100 MK2. You can tell it's MK2 variant because of the finish color black. The MK1 did come in silver. It uses ruby bearing surfaces. I don't know if you can make that out here. This is like a red bearing surface, which is pretty cool. This is, rubies is what is used in watchmaking to make sure that you have the absolute least amount of friction between two moving components. So it is a titanium, boron titanium. I don't know what that means. I imagine titanium is the material and the boron is the coating on it. Here we got EPA 100 MK2. The anti-skate goes from 0 to 3, pretty standard stuff, but check this out. The lifting mechanism is super cool. Instead of going up and down, which is the only thing people complain about on some of the techniques, this lifting mechanism is a lateral move, and it locks into place with a nice satisfying click. Love this piece. Technics branded up top, and it's got a really neat counterweight as well. So I've ordered an arm board for this. I'm going to make another video where I'll decide the position of this secondary tonearm, what cartridge we're going to put on, etc. So make sure you subscribe if you want to be notified when this second video comes out. And while we're talking about it, please guys, give me a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. It's what keeps bringing these videos to you. We stay motivated. If the videos do well, but they don't, I start focusing on other things. So if you want to see more of this stuff, I would love a comment. Just comment on something. Let me know what you think of this tonearm, what you think of the price of the SL-1000. Even if you've got ideas on what the next generation of the 1200G should be, I would love to hear from you guys. I know Technics is watching, so if you got a wish list, go ahead and leave it in the comments below. At the bottom, we've got the mounting bracket, and then instead of DINs, it looks like they've gone with RCA jacks. And something I've never seen before, check this cable out. This came with this tonearm, something I've never seen before. It's essentially a molded connector with 2 RCA jacks and then the ground embedded right into it. Pretty cool, especially because you're usually fumbling around underneath the turntable without seeing what you're doing, and it's really hard to make these connections. And this particular model, they made it so it's super easy to both have the line level and the ground be made on the same connector. Pretty cool. I wish this had caught us as standard. Got some position options. I'm going to look at the dimensions and see if we can have it on the left position, see if it geometrically will work, and if not, how we'll do in the rear position, which is right about here somewhere. In terms of cartridges, on the 1200G, we absolutely love the Sumiko Starling. It does incredibly well on the test bench. This turntable, on the other hand, could probably do a step up from this. Calibration 40 or the pair with Calibration would be a nice upgrade to this turntable, and that's probably what we'll do on the primary position. But I'd love to hear from you guys what you think I should do on the secondary arm. Should we do a moving coil, moving magnet, maybe a mono cartridge? I hear all sorts of ideas as to what and why you should do at a secondary position, but I'd love to hear from you guys what you've done in your own rig and what do you recommend for us. Market for this particular piece or any other Technics turntable, I'd encourage you, please give us a chance. SkyFiaudio.com is where you'll find us. We've got a really industry unique 12-step calibration process that we offer to our clients, where we've got a very dedicated test bench. I'm going to start walking towards it while I describe it. So we've developed a 12-step process, and really just to hone in, not just the Technics turntable, but really our game in turntable calibration. We've done dozens and dozens just this year alone. This is the bench that we designed for this purpose. It's everything that we need in one spot. And we've got some pretty specialized equipment here. Not just the bench was specifically made for it, for the right height, but we've got our assortment of tools that we use on a day-to-day basis. Got a nice sturdy platform for it, all the connections we need. We've got our Roden Schwartz audio analyzer, which we're able to do some of the fine adjustments with. That kit alone is like $20,000. Got a scope, we've got a tube preamp, we've got our Frosgometer, which I always forget and leave on. So really, all the, look at all these test records. I mean, we'll use 3 or 4 of these in our calibration process to get it just right. And then we're lucky enough to get a set of Wally tools. We use this religiously as well. We've got both their Wally skate and their calibration disc, and this is an invaluable tool in our setup. So yes, the 12-step calibration process can be added to any of the Technics turntables, whether you purchase a cartridge from us or supply your own cartridge. Why do the calibration process with us? Well, generally most consumers spending a couple $100 on a test record, maybe a Frosgometer and a few other things, so you can kind of get a cartridge at home to the 90–95% mark. If you want 100% out of it, you need a bunch of specialized equipment, and you need someone that's done a bunch of turntables to really dial it in, especially the azimuth. That is really tricky, and the results of just a tiny bit of an adjustment can be pretty substantial. You have it. I've wasted another 20 minutes of your time. I appreciate you watching SkyFi.com. I'm going to link below to all the videos and everything I've mentioned. Appreciate your time.